We open in the year 2075, in what used to be Tokyo, where we meet Edo Kiryu, who is clearly having a fantastic day. Turns out he's an F-rank supplier for the mage army, and life's not exactly glamorous, lamenting his dead-end job at 35 before flashing back 40 years to when everything went sideways. Back then, the world was ending for reasons nobody could quite figure out, as monstrous creatures suddenly clawed their way up from underground to attack everyone. Humanity, of course, threw all of its military might at the problem, but their bullets just bounced harmlessly off the monster's strange energy shields, because these things had powers that made modern weapons look like total jokes. Just as everyone was about to give up, a mysterious caped hero appears on the scene. These new heroes weren't just strong, they could actually bypass the monster's shields, and they were called mages, wielding both enchanted swords and powerful magic circles, a forgotten art that combined ancient spells with deadly swordsmanship that actually worked. They were humanity's only real shot, blasting through creatures that laughed at tanks, so to fight back, the entire world scrambled to start training more of them, kicking off a global mage academy boom in every single country imaginable. Thanks to these newly trained elites, the world finally regained some semblance of peace, but that peace came with a pretty nasty side effect for regular people. What was left behind was a world where non-mages were suddenly second-class citizens, ruled by a brutal elite who believed if you can't use magic, you aren't even human. And back in the present, Eito is just trying to do his job at the mage army base, lugging supplies around while a couple of off-duty goons are taking a break, who immediately spot the valuable-looking potion sticking out of his pocket. So of course one of them gets up to start some trouble with the local supplier, demanding he hand over the goods before kicking the box right out of his hands, sending the potion flying while calling him a low-ranking dropout for good measure. And when Eito begs them to stop, they just snatch the potion anyway, which triggers a quick lesson on how things work at the Mage Academy, where rank is everything, because your entire worth is decided by your skill in swordsmanship or your raw talent for casting powerful magic. The bully continues his lecture on how even military strategy is just another metric for your rank, with your final score in all these areas deciding your entire future in their society, which neatly sorts everyone into a pyramid with legendary mages on top and ordinary folks at the bottom. In this world of cutthroat elitism, Eito just sits alone after getting robbed, feeling the weight of it all, reflecting on how a dropout like him could only ever end up as a simple supplier, and his stat screen confirms it. F rank across the board in everything that actually matters, leaving him to wallow in regret over the talent he never had to fight for the world. Until a sudden shout makes him look up at the sky, snapping him out of his funk because a terrifying dark purple rift is tearing open right above the city, and all Eito can do is stare in absolute horror at the impending disaster. Out of the rift pours a winged, one-eyed demon armed with a nasty-looking scythe, which lands right in front of Eito and the bullies, who are frozen in absolute terror. Turns out that was just the advanced scout, because an entire army of them materializes behind it, prompting the local SS rank commander, Pola Zoral, to order an immediate all-out attack. His elite mages try their best to fight back, but they're completely outmatched in the air, especially when the lead monster unleashes a massive energy beam straight from its glowing eye, an attack that just rips through the mage army's formations without any trouble at all. Eito watches from the ground, realizing this new enemy is on a whole different level of terrifying, and he was right, these unknown creatures proceeded to destroy the entire world in only 3 days. The flashback ends with a younger Eito looking out over the ruins of his former home. In the aftermath of the apocalypse, Eito stands with his friend Luna, who looks up at the ruined sky and asks if this is really the end, and he promises to protect her, even while doubting himself as a dropout. She just smiles, telling him she feels perfectly safe as long as he's with her, because in her eyes, he's the kindest person left in the entire world. Her complete faith in him leaves Eito momentarily speechless, before she cheerfully announces she's going to go look for some food, leaving him to wonder what good kindness is in a world that's fallen apart. He sinks to his knees, feeling utterly powerless all over again, until a piercing scream makes him jump up as a winged monster appears nearby. Eito's blood runs cold as he sees the monster has already reached Luna, who gets snatched up by the winged demon, its jaws wide open for a bite. He screams for it to stop, calling her his sister as he rushes forward to help, flashing back to their shared struggle after their parents were killed by creatures just like this. Fueled by desperation, he activates his only skill, pressure, gathering energy in his hand and fires off a weak-looking light ball, praying it'll be enough to save her. The attack connects, but the monster barely even seems to notice the impact, which just fizzles out harmlessly against its tough hide without leaving a scratch. Eito can only watch in horror, realizing his best shot was completely useless, until a mysterious mage with a sword and a glowing green magic circle appears right above him. The mysterious mage casts a spell that puts Eito's trash skill to absolute shame, unleashing a devastating sword strike that cleaves right through the air, and as the swordsman lands, Eito realizes he recognizes this guy. It's Gurren Diamante, an SS rank commander, who tells him to grab Luna and run. Gurren and his squad immediately clash with the winged demon, creating an opening, so Eito scoops up the badly wounded Luna while the elites handle the monster. He desperately tries to wake her up, calling her name as she bleeds in his arms, but she can only whisper his name before her eyes start to close, and her body suddenly goes limp, leaving Eito completely stunned. All he can do is stare in horror as Luna lies unconscious and bleeding out. Edo can only scream Luna's name in absolute despair as his world completely shatters. 3 days later, he's standing alone before a makeshift grave, the only tribute he could manage, offering a silent prayer while completely consumed by the weight of his failure. The guilt is eating him alive, as he's convinced her death is entirely his fault, because if he'd just been a real mage, he could have actually protected her. His self-pity party is cut short by a sudden panicked shout to run for it as a group of other survivors sprints past him, warning of imminent danger. And right on cue, another winged demon descends from the sky to ruin everyone's day, leaving Edo furious that he can't even get 5 minutes to properly mourn, before the monster unleashes a massive energy beam, ready to wipe them all out. The blast clears, and against all odds, Edo is somehow still breathing, though he's definitely seen better days, bleeding from a pretty nasty head wound. He struggles to his knees, barely processing that he survived a direct hit, coughing up dust while trying to get his bearings in the desolate landscape. In his hand, he finds his very last potion, a tiny glimmer of hope. But before he can use it, another massive energy attack comes screaming down from the sky. Out of nowhere, Gurren Diamante intercepts the blast, deflecting it with his sword, leaving Edo completely stunned that the commander is still out here fighting alone. Gurren just screams that he refuses to hand this world over to the monsters, then immediately dives back into battle, taking on multiple demons all by himself. Gurren's one-man stand is immediately complicated by a sudden volley of massive ice shards, and Edo can only scream as the commander gets caught completely off guard, with a warning shout coming way too late as the attack closes in, slamming right into Gurren before he even has a chance to raise his sword, piercing straight through his body and leaving him wide open for more. Turns out there's a much bigger, nastier demon leading the charge from behind, leaving the SS rank commander impaled and bleeding out on the ground. He struggles to stay conscious, barely holding himself up with his sword, so Edo rushes over, offering his very last potion to save the commander's life, but Gurren just refuses, telling Edo to use the precious healing item on himself instead. Edo insists that Gurren's life is way more important for the world's future, but the commander just pushes back, claiming Edo is much stronger than he realizes. Edo then confesses he only wanted to be strong so he could have protected Luna, which is when Gurren reveals his own failure, admitting he couldn't even save his lover, Arya. In that moment, Edo realizes the SS rank commander is carrying the exact same burden of loss, and with his last bit of strength, Gurren grabs Ido's arm, entrusting him with a silver bracer, telling our boy that he is the one who has to protect the world now. Edo is completely floored by this sudden, impossible responsibility, screaming that it can't be done, but Gurren just insists that he's the only one who can. As the commander kneels, a strange purple energy begins to gather around his body. That strange purple energy seems to supercharge the demon, which raises its scythe for the final blow, but Gurren shoves Ito out of the way, screaming at him to run while he holds it off. In that instant, a blinding golden light erupts from the commander's body, engulfing everything, leaving Ito completely baffled by this unknown magic as he braces for his own death. With his last breath, Gurren unleashes a massive spell, screaming the word reverse, and as Edo accepts he's about to join Luna, the entire world just flashes white. He snaps his eyes open, suddenly looking a whole lot younger and less apocalyptic, finding himself sitting in what looks like a classroom, totally bewildered by the change of scenery. A couple of classmates next to him are just chatting away, completely oblivious to his confusion, and a quick look down confirms that he's back in his old academy uniform, years in the past. The sign says 2055, which is a problem since Edo is pretty sure it's supposed to be 2075. He's understandably freaking out, trying to figure out what in the world just happened to him, and the horrifying math sinks in. He's been thrown a full 20 years into the past. As he tries to get his bearings, his hand brushes against something familiar on his wrist. It's the silver bracer, the last thing Commander Gurren ever entrusted to him, the memory of Gurren's final, desperate spell. Reverse comes flooding back, and Edo realizes the commander didn't just die, he sent him back to get a do-over. Unfortunately, his epiphany is cut short by an instructor announcing the start of the entrance exam, leaving Edo to just stare blankly ahead, trying to process this insane turn of events, now sitting at his desk with a pen, completely clueless about what to do next. Edo tries to focus on the written exam, figuring he just needs to survive this part, but as he starts writing, he realizes the questions are almost insultingly easy, breezing through problems he definitely would have struggled with the first time around. Next up is the swordsmanship portion, where students are testing their skills on training dummies, and when it's his turn, Edo slices through the target with a clean, powerful strike, leaving him completely stunned at how much his sword skills have suddenly improved. He starts to wonder if he somehow inherited Gurren's abilities from the time jump. Flashing back to the commander's final, desperate plea for him to protect the world, and remembering Gurren's absolute faith in him, Eito makes a silent promise, vowing to first become the top mage in the academy to reclaim a world free of monsters. As he's stealing his resolve, Eito spots a familiar face in the crowd. It's Luna, alive and well in this new timeline, and he's completely overcome, so without a second thought, our boy rushes forward to pull her into a hug, leaving her totally confused by his sudden and intense emotional outburst, while he silently promises that this time, he will never let her die again. Later at the entrance ceremony, Eito waits anxiously for his exam results, but he's haunted by the memory of the humiliation he suffered in his past life, flashing back to the C-rank bully who treated him like absolute dirt for being F-rank. His painful trip down memory lane is cut short when the academy principal shouts his name, and Eito snaps to attention, ready to face his new future head-on. As he steps onto the stage, the other students just whisper about this total nobody. But the principal congratulates him by name, presenting him with a very special award. Eito opens the box, completely stunned by what he finds nestled inside. It's a golden badge, an honor reserved for the single top-scoring student in the entire class. The reality hits him like a truck. He actually placed first in the whole academy, meaning the former dropout is now at the very top of the school's brutal caste system. Later, he walks through the halls, still trying to process his new and improved status, barely able to believe that he's no longer at the bottom of the barrel. Which is when he overhears some other student complaining about his absolutely pathetic meal, who bitterly explains that this sad little bread roll is just how F-rank students get treated. Ido looks over, recognizing the all-too-familiar sound of low-rankers getting pushed around, a grim reminder of the Academy's brutal ranking system that sorts everyone from SS down to F. Right on cue, some entitled jerk shoves his way through, demanding the peasants clear a path, sending one student's pathetic meal flying all over the floor for the crime of existing. The bully, a smug C-rank named Azure Willer, dares the kid to even think about having a problem, which sends the F-rankers into a panic, immediately groveling before someone 3 ranks higher. The place runs on an absolute caste system where defying your superiors is strictly forbidden, but Eito, having none of that nonsense, steps in to help the kid who just got his lunch ruined. Azure immediately confronts him, sneering that being top student doesn't mean much if he's also a C rank, until he gets a good look at Ido's uniform and suddenly freezes in complete disbelief. Azure finally clocks the A rank insignia on Ido's uniform, completely short-circuiting his brain, because the bully's smug attitude immediately evaporates, leaving him sweating bullets at this impossible development. But Ido just kneels down to clean up the mess, calling the wasted food the only real tragedy here, leaving all the low rankers completely stunned that a superior is actually helping them out. Azure, disgusted by this display of basic human decency, just storms off with his goons, convinced Ido is just playing the good guy and vowing to make him pay for the humiliation. Meanwhile, Ido reveals the A-rank special menu he ordered, a feast fit for a king, which he promptly invites all the bullied F-rankers to share with him at his table. His act of kindness doesn't go unnoticed, catching the eye of a silver-haired girl across the hall, who turns out to be Sarah Grace, a B-rank noble who finds this mage far more interesting than a typical honor student. Just as he's settling in, Sarah Grace herself asks if she can join him for lunch, and Eito's brain completely short-circuits, since this girl was way out of his league in his first life. He manages to agree, and she's immediately impressed by how humble he is despite his power, even calling him kind, but Ido's not exactly feeling the compliment because he knows from brutal experience that kindness alone can't protect anyone he cares about. More than anything, he's realized what he truly needs is overwhelming strength, and his quiet intensity just makes Sarah even more interested in this supposed top student. Unfortunately, Azure's crew is watching from across the hall, absolutely fuming over Eido's sudden fame, with a couple of C-rankers vowing to knock the new top dog down a few pegs, and they waste no time, as one of them smashes a giant axe right through Eido's table. The axe-wielding goon smashes their table to bits, clearly not here for a friendly chat, and Sarah calmly points out that private dueling is forbidden, not that these guys seem to care. Her warning is immediately shot down by the other C-rank, who's obviously spoiling for a fight, with the attacker claiming he was just teaching Eito a valuable lesson, real charitable of him. But Eito, remembering Luna's final moments, knows more about battlefield cruelty than this clown ever will, so he just cuts to the chase, calmly asking the bully what exactly he wants from him. Turns out the guy wants to challenge the top student to a caste rebellion quest, a formal duel, which leaves the entire cafeteria stunned, since a challenge like this right after enrollment is unheard of. And while the bullies look smug, confident they've backed him into a corner, Eito just sees this as a perfect chance to test out his newfound abilities. Turns out the underdog challenge is just a formal system for low rankers to steal points from their betters, and on the school rooftop, the rules are simple enough: first one to get knocked out loses. Eito knows there's literally no benefit for him in this fight since he's already at the top, but he accepts anyway, seeing it as a perfect opportunity to test his new power level. Of course, the red-haired bully decides a simple duel is too boring and wants to make a bet, and Sarah immediately calls his bluff, pointing out that an A rank like Eito is obviously going to win. So the creep raises the stakes, suggesting that if Eito somehow manages to lose the duel, then Sarah will have to belong to him, which is just all kinds of messed up. But before anyone can even protest, Sarah just calmly accepts the deal without a second thought, leaving Eito completely floored that she'd agree to a bet with herself as the prize. Sarah adds her own terms. If Eito wins, the creep has to stop treating her like property forever. The red-haired bully just smirks and agrees, calling her cocky while totally missing the point. As the duel starts, Eito admits to himself he has zero formal combat experience from his past life, and his opponent wastes no time, immediately casting a powerful ice spell to overwhelm him, leaving our boy to panic for a split second, completely unsure how to counter the sudden attack. But before he can even think, a defensive magic circle activates, deflecting all the ice shards around him, and he's stunned to realize his body just moved completely on its own to block the spell. From the sidelines, Sarah's pretty impressed by what she assumes is his incredible reaction speed, which is when it clicks for Ado, he might lack duel experience, but he has survived a literal apocalypse. So with renewed confidence, he unleashes his own powerful fire spell to counter the attack. The bully smirks, calling Ado's fire spell completely predictable for an honor student, but Ado immediately follows up with a second spell, Freeze Arc, which looks like an ice attack, leaving the axe-wielding goon completely baffled by the sudden change in magic, because Ado's attack is actually a combo, with fire splitting right through ice blades. The combined assault blast right past the red-haired mage, who is totally overwhelmed, and it's revealed this fire and ice technique is actually Commander Gurren's signature move. Sarah is stunned from the sidelines, wondering where he could have possibly learned that combo, while the red-haired bully decides he needs to wrap this up quickly before it gets worse. Ado just channels Gurren's advice, preparing to strike without a single wasted motion, but his other goon decides to jump in from behind with a massive axe. The axe-wielding goon tries a cheap shot from behind, but Ado dodges as the attack shatters the rooftop, which has Sarah absolutely furious, calling them cowards for interfering in a one-on-one duel. The bullies just laugh it off, smugly revealing this was never a solo fight to begin with, clarifying that this is an official 2-on-1 underdog challenge, much to Aito's surprise. The red-haired mage even mocks him, using Aito's own words about an unfair battlefield against him. Sarah immediately tries to shut it down, screaming that a challenge like this is completely invalid, but Aito calmly tells her it's fine, declaring that one or two opponents makes no difference to him. His sudden confidence leaves Sarah completely stunned as he readies his sword for the real fight, because he has a much bigger destiny to fulfill than just winning some schoolyard brawl, revealing his true purpose is to protect the world from the demon invasion 20 years from now. Ado steals his resolve, refusing to back down over some petty schoolyard nonsense, then charges forward, shouting that on a real battlefield there are no rules. It's just a simple choice between surviving or getting completely wiped out. From the sidelines, Sarah realizes Ado isn't just fighting a simple duel. He's looking at a much bigger picture, while the bullies just confirm this was their plan all along. With that, the two C-rankers charge forward together, ready to overwhelm him with numbers. But Ado just calmly raises his sword, completely unfazed by their coordinated assault, thinking to himself that with his superior sword skills, this fight is already over. The red-haired mage leaps for an attack from above while his buddy charges in low, and Ado easily parries the sword, only to find a massive axe swinging right at his legs. Sarah is just stunned that Ado stopped a giant axe with one hand, while Ado calmly decides he'll take out the red-haired punk first, who squares up ready to trade blows with the new top student. They clash swords in a flurry of sparks, but the outcome is a little one-sided, because the bully's sword just shatters into pieces on contact, and Ado, versed in his own power, is so insane it broke his weapon too. Just as the axe-wielder casts Thunderval, as the goon powers up with lightning, his red-haired buddy smirks, convinced they've already won, then casts a support spell called Grease to supercharge his partner's attack. Sarah immediately recognizes the combo, realizing the spell doubles the power of the lightning magic, leaving Ado to face a massively amplified axe swing all on his own. Ado knows his current shield magic stands absolutely no chance against that massively boosted attack, so with no other options, he decides it's time to gamble on an all-or-nothing move, figuring this is the perfect moment to test out one of Commander Gurren's inherited skills, and with a massive magic circle erupting, he screams out the incantation to summon. From the light emerges a colossal, fiery red dragon that towers over the entire rooftop, leaving the two bullies completely terrified, realizing they can't possibly beat a summon like that. But as the lightning strikes, the dragon just absorbs the entire blast, leaving Ado totally confused, and he's left wondering what the hell is going on as purple energy swirls around his new pet. In a flash of light, the terrifying dragon starts shrinking down into something much, much smaller, revealing a tiny pink creature that just lets out a big yawn, completely baffling everyone. The axe-wielding goon just stares, his brain completely failing to process the tiny pink creature, and his buddy joins in, both of them laughing their heads off at Ado's pathetic-looking summon. Unfortunately for them, the tiny dragon heard that and is clearly not amused by the insult, so it immediately unleashes a massive energy beam that's anything but weak-looking, blasting the bullies head-on as they scream for help, completely overwhelmed by the attack. Even Ado is stunned by his new pet's power, which is now just yawning on his shoulder, but from the sidelines, Sarah realizes this isn't just some random creature he pulled out of a hat, because she identifies it as Draga, an incredibly rare S-rank summon only legends can call. The now-defeated bullies can only listen in horror, realizing who they just picked a fight with, while Ito confirms the name with the little guy, who just casually agrees like it's no big deal. Draga looks ready for round 2, asking if it should just finish the bullies off for good, and the two goons immediately start begging for their lives, their tough guy act completely gone. But Ito just shuts it down, telling his new pet to stand down and end the duel, leaving Draga confused, reminding him that showing mercy to enemies is a big no-no on the battlefield. Ato just explains he's already seen enough of its power, calling Draga by name to calm it down, adding that he doesn't even consider these clowns to be his actual enemies. He sees them as future comrades who will eventually fight the real threat alongside him. Of course, the bullies just take this as him getting lucky, completely missing the point, with the red-haired punk vowing to crush Edo someday for the humiliation, while Draga flies up to its new master, calling him kind for his act of mercy. Edo formally introduces himself to his new pet, who seems to think its master is kind, but he immediately tells Draga not to call him that, and the little dragon just agrees, sealing the deal on their new partnership with a simple greeting. From the sidelines, Sarah Grace is just staring, completely blown away by this guy, because she's already convinced he's on track to become the strongest mage the world has ever seen. Later that night, back at what looks like his apartment, things are a lot more relaxed, where Luna is absolutely fawning over Draga, calling the tiny S-rank summon adorable. She asks for its name, and Eto confirms it's Draga, explaining it's his summon, which is great news for Luna, who's always wanted a dog and sees this as a major upgrade. Watching her so happy, Eto silently promises he won't let her suffer in this new timeline. Eto warns Luna that his new pet may look goofy, but it's actually pretty vicious, which has Draga immediately flying up in a huff, demanding who's being called goofy here. Our boy just laughs it off, quickly apologizing to his very sensitive S-rank summon, while Luna finds the whole exchange absolutely hilarious, enjoying the peaceful moment. And with that, Eto's second shot at Academy life officially kicks off in this new timeline. The first major event for all the new students is the all-important class selection. By sorts sets everyone into 3 groups, starting with the red class for bold, decisive types. Next up is the blue class, which is all about ambition, adventure, and raw power. And finally, the yellow class is for the cunning strategists who prefer to outthink their opponents. These classes are constantly competing against each other, with the winners getting special score bonuses. The Academy principal lays out the rules for the all-important class selection, stressing that this one choice will basically decide their entire future. Right on cue, Luna asks Edo which class he's planning to join, but our boy admits he still hasn't really made up his mind yet. Sarah Grace immediately warns him to stay away from the Tigre class since the professor is brutal, and Edo confirms the rumors are true, remembering how that guy tormented him in his past life. The professor, Ivan of Tigre, is basically a devil masquerading as an instructor, whose greatest joy comes from making his students suffer for their failures. Edo flashes back to the brutal punishments he endured under the man's watch, and it seems that same professor has already taken a special interest in this year's top student. Edo nervously confirms he's ready for the confrontation, trying not to show any weakness, leaving Sarah Grace to worry about what the infamous Professor Ivan could possibly want with him. Right on cue, the sadistic professor corners him, asking about his scholarship application, and Edo admits that without the financial aid, his academy life would be pretty much over. So Ivan lays out his one condition: if Edo wants the scholarship, he has to join his class. Edo immediately sees this for the power play it is, silently calling the professor a scumbag, while Ivan just smirks, planning to break the top student's spirit before he gets too cocky. But Edo just calmly agrees to the terms, completely throwing the professor off his game, which has Sarah absolutely floored, unable to believe he'd walk right into the lion's den, because our boy has already decided he's not just going to survive, he's going to make this corrupt professor kneel. Edo flips the script, telling the professor he has a condition of his own, but Ivan just smirks, announcing it's time for a special examination instead. Our boy is understandably confused, having no idea what this surprise test is about, and the professor reveals he'll be fighting an A-rank magical beast in the underground arena. Down in the arena, Edo realizes he's being thrown into a high-level fight way too soon, while Ivan mocks him from above, saying it should be an easy win for the top student. Edo starts to suspect the professor might just have a personal grudge against him. Just then, some red-haired student asks for permission to watch this educational beatdown, and Sarah Grace chimes in, saying she'd also like to observe the fight. Ivan happily agrees to let them watch, clearly enjoying the audience he's gathered for the show. From the stands, Sarah Grace is already calling foul, convinced the professor is setting Edo up for failure, while our boy just braces himself as the arena gates begin to rumble open, and right on cue, his opponent for this special exam starts to emerge from the darkness. A massive armored lizard beast steps into the light, looking absolutely thrilled to be here, revealing a hulking bipedal monster with a glowing red core embedded in its chest. The system helpfully identifies it as Gosville, an A-rank magical beast, just in case he wasn't worried enough. And Edo recognizes the creature, confirming it's just as creepy as he remembers from his past life. Sarah can't believe her eyes, realizing he's being forced to fight a monster on a completely different level, while Ivan smugly explains this beast is for training senior mages, basically admitting Edo has no chance. The professor then offers some friendly advice: run away now, or he'll die. As the A-rank beast growls, ready to tear him apart, Edo just stares it down without flinching, flatly refusing to run. Knowing this is a fight he absolutely has to win. With his scholarship on the line, losing here means getting kicked out of the academy for good, so our boy decides winning is his only option, much to the professor's silent disapproval. He figures this is just a training beast, lacking the killer instinct of a real monster, which immediately proves him wrong by firing a massive energy blast right at his face. Edo easily sidesteps the simple attack, his confidence surging as he realizes he can do this, but the beast just stomps the ground in frustration, clearly not used to its target's dodging. Realizing its basic moves aren't working, Gosville starts gathering a massive amount of magical energy, and a glowing magic circle erupts from the ground as it powers up for a much more serious attack. Ado throws up a quick shield spell, hoping to block the incoming magical assault, but the beast's attack just shatters right through it like it's made of glass. Gosville lets out a triumphant roar, clearly enjoying this one-sided beatdown a little too much, leaving Ado completely stunned by the sheer bloodlust coming off this supposed training dummy. Up in the stands, Professor Ivan smirks, revealing he starved the beast for 3 days, all to make sure it was extra ferocious for this little examination. That red-haired punk is also loving the show, cheering for Gosville to literally eat Ato alive, while Sarah Grace panics, convinced our boy has absolutely no way to win this fight. Ato just takes a moment to think, calmly assessing the impossible situation he's in, realizing this monster's ferocity is way beyond what any normal Academy beast should have. But Ido suddenly gets a confident smirk, realizing he knows this monster's secret weakness, remembering a critical detail from his past life about these artificial training beasts. They're all controlled by a tiny AI chip implanted in the back of their heads, so he immediately charges forward, aiming to destroy the chip and shut the monster down. From the stands, Professor Ivan is completely stunned, realizing Ado somehow knows about the AI as our boy leaps into the air, bringing his sword down for a decisive strike, only for Gosville to spin around and block the attack with its armored arm, sending Ado flying across the arena floor from the sheer force of the impact. He's frustrated that his surprise attack was blocked, but he's far from defeated, knowing that every beast has a weakness, and Gosville's power won't save it forever. Ado figures with Gurren's inherited speed. This sluggish beast is an easy target for a second attempt, but Gosville suddenly moves with impossible quickness, completely shattering his expectations. The monster intercepts his attack head-on, slamming right into him before he can even react, and the sheer force of the impact leaves Ado coughing up blood from the blow. Gosville follows up with a brutal swipe that sends our boy flying across the arena, crashing hard into the stone wall with enough force to shake the entire room. He barely manages to land on his feet, realizing this isn't the same Gosville he remembers because its power and speed are on a completely different level than any training beast should have. Up in the stands, the red-haired punk smugly tells the professor that reprogramming the AI was a great idea, and Ivan confirms with a sinister grin that he removed the beast's limiters, just as suggested. Ado realizes this isn't just some training beast anymore, it's a full-blown killing machine. Sarah immediately calls them out from the stands, demanding to know what they've done, accusing the professor of setting Ado up, but Ivan just plays dumb with a smug grin. He claims this is just a chance for a poor student, and Sarah is absolutely disgusted by his hypocrisy. With no other choice, she just silently begs Ado to win as he faces the monster alone. Down below, Gosville wastes no time, immediately powering up a massive ice spell, forming a huge cluster of deadly ice shards that loom directly over our boy's head, and the beast unleashes a devastating barrage, completely blanketing the area in ice. Ado gets caught in the blast, screaming as the razor-sharp shards tear right into him, leaving him clutching his shoulder, realizing this thing is way stronger than any A rank should be. Ado realizes this thing's been juiced up to a full-blown S rank, making his odds even worse. But even facing a monster that could rip him apart, our boy refuses to back down. He knows he absolutely cannot afford to lose this fight, not with everything on the line, so with his scholarship at stake, he channels Gurren's will and screams out the incantation for summon. Up in the stands, the red-haired punk is shocked that Ado is even trying to activate a skill, as a colossal fiery dragon erupts behind him, towering over the entire arena in a flash of light, leaving Professor Ivan and his little sidekick completely speechless at the impossible sight. But just as quickly, the terrifying beast just poofs into a tiny winking red creature, which Sarah Grace immediately recognizes as the legendary summoned beast, Draga, looking absolutely thrilled. Ato asks his new pet for its strength, and the tiny dragon just yawns and casually agrees. Draga immediately fires off a massive energy beam, ready to end this little exam right now, which blasts Gosville head-on, making the beast shriek in absolute agony from the impact. Ado sees the perfect opening, realizing he can finally destroy the AI chip while it's stunned. But as he charges forward, Gosville suddenly gets enveloped in a sinister purple aura, leaving Sarah completely baffled from the stands as the beast starts to transform. The monster just keeps changing, its body contorting under the strange new power, and Ado freezes, realizing he's never seen a transformation like this, not even in his past life. Up in the stands, Professor Ivan just smirks, revealing Gosville has conveniently evolved into a second form sprouting multiple snake heads from its back, looking even more terrifying than before, and Ado can only watch in horror as the monster's new heads lunge forward to attack. Draga throws up a defensive shield, trying to block the monster's incoming barrage, but the attack just smashes right through it, completely overwhelming the S-rank summon. From the stands, Sarah is stunned that the beast's power could shatter Draga's shield, and even the tiny dragon admits they might not win, asking Ado if it's time to run. But our boy just grits his teeth, screaming that he's absolutely not backing down now. As the multi-headed beast roars, the red-haired punk watches from above, looking smug, convinced Ado's defeat is now a done deal and he'll be kicked out of the academy. He smirks, vowing he won't let some nobody stand above him in the school rankings. That's when it clicks for Sarah, who realizes this was a trap set by Azure all along, leaving Ado to overhear that the entire exam was rigged from the very beginning. Sarah realizes they've completely reprogrammed the AI, convinced there's no way Ado can possibly win now, and our boy finally understands how the monster just kept leveling up mid-fight, but instead of backing down, he just screams that if the game is rigged, he'll win anyway. From the stands, Sarah is absolutely panicking, calling him an idiot for not running for his life, while the red-haired student just scoffs at his stubbornness, clearly enjoying the show, ordering Gosville to finish the job as the multi-headed beast lunges in for the kill. Even Draga is losing hope, pointing out that a modified monster probably has no weaknesses left. But that's when it clicks for Ado, who suddenly realizes the modification is the weakness. He calls out to his confused summon, ready to turn the tables with a brand new plan, telling Draga to just blast fire everywhere, a strategy that leaves his pet completely baffled. With the plan in motion, Draga starts littering the arena floor with small bursts of fire, but the multi-headed beast just barrels right through them without even slowing down, which has Professor Ivan scoffing from the stands. Convinced this simple attack is a total joke, Gosville just powers up its own magical assault, ready to end this with overwhelming force. But Draga is clearly not impressed, unleashing a massive fire blast of its own, which slams right into the beast, making it shriek as the two powerful attacks collide. From the sidelines, Sarah is still convinced Ado can't possibly win a magic duel like this, but that's when it clicks for our boy, who realizes the professor's weakness is the beast's too. He remembers Ivan is obsessed with magic and absolutely terrified of close-quarters combat, and Sarah finally gets it too. The fire wasn't the attack, it was just the perfect distraction. Ado screams that a sheltered professor could never understand a real battlefield survivor like him, and with the beast distracted, he slams his sword right into its hidden weak spot. Up in the stands, Professor Ivan immediately realizes his perfect little plan just went sideways, because Ado just destroyed the AI chip, sending the monster into a complete system failure. Our boy just smirks, confirming his risky gambit actually paid off and they've won, while Draga looks equally proud of their tag team victory over the juiced-up beast. From the sidelines, Sarah Grace is absolutely ecstatic, cheering for Ado's incredible performance. But he just plays it cool, giving all the credit to his tiny S-rank summon. Meanwhile, Ivan and his red-haired accomplice are seething, totally unable to process their loss, as the defeated monster starts twitching and shrinking on the arena floor, much to their confusion. The red-haired punk suddenly realizes their plan backfired, pointing out the real threat is still active, because the defeated Gosville is now crackling with dark energy, going completely berserk on them. Both the professor and his accomplice can only scream as their own weapon turns against them, unleashing a massive energy blast that sends the two schemers flying for their trouble. Ito just calmly observes the chaos, noting that their little pet project has officially lost its mind, and Sarah Grace agrees, adding it's exactly what they deserve for rigging the fight in the first place. Our boy just offers a quiet, satisfied smile, clearly enjoying this little dose of instant karma. Later, Ito enjoys a peaceful meal with Draga, who seems to have developed a taste for bananas, while Luna happily declares that his new academy life is officially underway. He agrees, already looking forward to a class competition he fully intends to dominate. Ado explains that winning this big class competition is absolutely critical for his grades, and Luna is just thrilled, hoping they get teamed up with some seriously strong classmates. With that, the Academy's sorting ceremony officially kicks off for all the new students, who have to choose between 3 classes, starting with the blue class for ambitious power seekers. Next up is the yellow class, which is all about cunning intelligence and outthinking your opponent. And finally, the red Tigre class is for the bold, decisive types who just get things done. Ado ends up in Tigre, only to hear someone calling his name from right behind him. It's Sarah Grace, who's practically bouncing with excitement that they're now classmates. She's just happy he joined Tigre too, which seems to catch our boy completely off guard, but she quickly clarifies that she definitely didn't follow him there on purpose or anything. Sarah's convinced that with Ato on their side, their class is basically unbeatable, but some loudmouths from the Oso Squadra class immediately shut that down, led by a couple of C-rankers who look like they're spoiling for a fight. Sarah just writes them off as a bunch of delinquents, which, yeah, seems about right. Just then, Professor Ivan himself shows up, promising to train Ato personally, and our boy immediately tenses up, knowing exactly what that means. Turns out the sadistic professor is their homeroom teacher, and he's got the class roster, handing it over with a smug grin while telling them to get excited. But as they opened it up, Sarah's face just drops in total disbelief, because aside from Ado and herself, their entire class is filled with F-rank students. Ado is sweating bullets, realizing his class is just a collection of sacrificial lambs, and the other F-rankers are just as thrilled, knowing they've been completely set up to fail. Professor Ivan just smirks, wishing them good luck with all the sincerity of a loan shark. Later, Sarah points out that all the actual elite students have conveniently gathered in another class, leaving Ado to realize they're on a completely different power level than his team of misfits. Right on cue, Azure Willer and his crew show up to mock them for being a bunch of failures, and Ado immediately confronts the punk, demanding to know what kind of strings he pulled. Azure just smugly explains it's all about the simple principle of capitalism, of course, gloating that wealth just naturally gathers where wealth already is, like with his stacked team. Sarah immediately gets it, realizing the creep just straight up bought all the strong students. Azure smugly invites Sarah to join his team of elites, assuming she's just jealous, but she immediately shuts him down, saying she'd rather not join a team of cowards. Before the argument can escalate, the academy principal gets everyone's attention for an announcement, officially kicking off the very first event for all the newly formed classes. Right on cue, Professor Ivan unveils a massive magical screen displaying a detailed map, and the students quickly realize the first competition is going to be an orienteering exercise. The rules are simple. Use only a map and compass to hit all the checkpoints and reach the goal, with the fastest class earning a massive prize of 100 points for each student. All the F-rankers immediately get hyped, seeing this as their one shot to finally rank up. But there's a catch: only 5 selected members from each class will actually get to compete. One of the rival students is already calling it an easy win, bragging about his speed-boosting spell, and his teammates are just as cocky, writing the whole thing off as a simple event. But Ado knows better, realizing this isn't just some normal orienteering exercise at all, because the entire course is set inside a zone absolutely crawling with magical creatures. It isn't a race, it's a brutal survival competition designed to break them from the start. He looks at his F-rank teammates, remembering he was a failure just like them in his past life, which is exactly why he's determined to prove that even this team of underdogs can win. Sarah just asked the obvious question: how in the world does he plan on pulling that off? So Ado asks his class for anyone who knows mountains, stars, or even crafting, and 3 nervous F-rankers slowly raise their hands, stepping up for the challenge. Ado confidently invites the 3 nervous F-rankers to join his team with Sarah, but one of them immediately pushes back, convinced they'll just drag everyone down. Our boy just shuts that down, promising them that they are absolutely going to win, which leaves the 3 underdogs completely stunned by his unwavering confidence. Even Sarah is skeptical, asking how he possibly plans to win with a team of F-rankers, but before he can answer, the principal fires the starting gun, kicking off the race. Right on cue, a rival student casts a speed-boosting spell for his entire team, and the elite squad immediately takes off, leaving everyone else in the dust from the start. Ado just calmly tells his own group it's time to get moving, not looking rushed at all, while his F-rank teammates are already defeated, convinced it's impossible for them to compete. Ado lays down a classic hero speech, telling his team to believe in him if they can't believe in themselves, and his little pep talk actually seems to be working on the downtrodden F-rankers, with one of the underdogs speaking up, confirming the whole group is putting their faith in him now. With his team's morale finally restored, Ado silently swears he's going to win this thing with them, then gives the order, and the newly motivated Tigre class finally starts moving out as a unit. Meanwhile, the Oso Squadra team is still gloating about their massive lead, pushing everyone else aside, literally just shoving other students out of their way like a bunch of schoolyard bullies. But their victory lap gets cut short when another team, Alcon Manshaft, blows right past them at insane speed, leaving the Oso Squadra to watch in shock as the new frontrunners take the lead. Because it turns out the Alcon team went all in on speed magic, convinced this is just a simple foot race. Meanwhile, the Oso Squadra goons realize they have no speed magic, leaving them totally stuck, and as they watch the other teams pull ahead, Ato's group is already falling way behind. But instead of panicking, our boy just calmly signals for his entire team to stop, which has his new F-rank teammates wondering why they're wasting precious time. Ado asks his mountain expert, Libra, about his knowledge of the local terrain, pointing to a river on the map as a potential route to the first checkpoint. The kid confirms it's possible, but warns him that it's a pretty big detour. Ado decides to take it anyway, but Sarah immediately argues they don't have time for that. He just shuts her down, insisting that pure speed isn't going to win this race. And right on cue, the Alcon team's leader smugly declares their speed guarantees an easy victory. The Alcon team's victory lap comes to a screeching halt when they run into an unexpected problem because a pack of werewolves ambushes them, leaving the speed-focused students totally defenseless. Their leader immediately regrets her life choices, realizing she picked the worst possible team for a fight, and as one of the beasts lunges forward for the kill, she can only watch in absolute shock, completely unable to react, until the Oso Squadra team shows up, with one of their brutes crushing the monster in a single blow. The Alcon leader is stunned, realizing the guy took it down without even breaking a sweat, and Azure's crew immediately starts mocking them for being spoiled brats who should just go home. She's absolutely furious, realizing her all-speed strategy was a complete and total waste, while one of Azure's goons, Julio, smugly tells her to stay out of their way from now on. Julio just smirks, deciding to leave the Alcon team to fend for themselves now, telling their shocked leader to mind her own business as he turns to walk away, abandoning them to the remaining werewolves that are still very much on the attack. The Alcon leader can only watch in horror, her own words about the finish line coming back to haunt her, while Julio smugly tells her to try and make it back alive, completely rubbing it in. Meanwhile, Ado's team is taking the scenic route, and they are absolutely exhausted. But their mountain expert, Libra, keeps morale high by pointing out a nearby plum tree. The other F-rankers are clearly struggling but still pushing forward together as a unit, and Ado knows picking Libra for his terrain knowledge was definitely the right move. Sarah, however, is still worried they're falling behind, asking if the other teams are already at the next checkpoint. Ado just calmly predicts that the other teams are about to hit a major roadblock, and right on cue, the Oso Squadra team is absolutely losing their minds, because the bridge they were counting on has been completely destroyed by a monster. With their main route gone, they have no choice but to take the long river detour, forcing Julio to frantically rush his team along the exact path Ado chose from the start. From the control room, the academy principal is watching the race unfold with a shocked expression, as his holographic map shows every single team is now converging on that same river route, which means Ado's underdog Tigre class has somehow taken the lead without anyone noticing. Meanwhile, Ado's team is just casually strolling along the river, already way ahead of the pack, leaving the principal to realize our boy predicted this entire outcome and is truly one of a kind. Sarah keeps the team's spirits high, pointing out the first checkpoint is just ahead. And sure enough, Ido spots a small stone shrine with an owl statue waiting for them. The whole group rushes forward, absolutely ecstatic that they've finally made it. But Ido immediately notices there are still 3 red checkpoint stones left untouched, which has his F-rank teammates realizing they're the very first ones to arrive. Ado just calmly confirms it, grabbing a stone and declaring they're officially in first place. Sarah is completely blown away, asking how he could have possibly known this was the right route, and our boy just plays it cool, brushing off his future knowledge as a simple hunch. She's completely sold, now convinced that with Ado leading, this team of misfits can actually win. But their celebration is cut short when Ido spots glowing blue eyes watching them from the bushes. Ido immediately realizes they've got company, and it is definitely not friendly, as his entire team of F-rankers starts screaming their heads off in pure terror. A hulking blue magical beast steps out of the trees, looking ready for a fight, and one of the girls immediately yells for everyone to run, convinced they have no chance. But Ido flatly refuses, telling them they can't advance until this thing is dealt with, which has the F-rankers complaining that nobody warned them about a monster ambush. Ignoring their panic, our boy just orders everyone to draw their swords and prepare for battle, but his teammates are still convinced it's impossible, reminding him they're all F-rank. Even Sarah Grace agrees, insisting they should absolutely run from a fight they can't win. So Ado hits them with a guilt trip, asking if they'd run if their family was attacked too. His F-rank teammates are completely horrified by this sudden suicide pact, staring in disbelief, but Ado just stares the monster down, refusing to give an inch of ground. He flashes back to his past, remembering the vow he made to protect his family, which is exactly why he screams that running away is absolutely not an option now. Sarah immediately pushes back, calling him unreasonable and asking if he's trying to get them all killed, but she sees the look in his eyes, realizing he's dead serious about this fight. And just like that, his little speech actually works, with the F-rankers drawing their swords, so Ado just smirks, telling them they're all going to get stronger together. Sarah is completely floored, realizing his pep talk somehow gave these underdogs actual confidence, and one of the guys even asks for a plan, now totally ready to follow his lead. Ato suddenly remembers seeing Captain Gurren defeat this exact type of monster in his past life, and he immediately identifies the antenna on its head as the one and only weak point. He lays out the plan he'll be the decoy while the rest of them attack the antenna, then immediately activates his summon skill, calling forth a massive fiery dragon to get its attention. His F-rank teammates are completely stunned, wondering if he just busted out an A-rank skill, but the epic beast just poofs into a tiny yawning Draga who seems annoyed to be awake. Ado just tells his pet that nap time is officially over, and the little guy squares up with the beast, immediately blasting it with a massive fireball that catches the monster completely off guard, which gives Ado the perfect opening to leap in and finish the job while it's stunned. He brings his sword down in a powerful slash, aiming to take the creature out in one clean strike. But his big finishing move barely phases the beast, which just shakes off the hit like nothing happened, giving Sarah the perfect opening to scream for the F-rankers to finally charge in and attack. Unfortunately, the monster just roars back to life, scaring the underdogs into a dead stop, and Ado has to yell at them to snap out of it, reminding them this is a kill-or-be-killed world. Draga chimes in, pointing out the beast's blue eyes mean it's not as wild as it looks, and Ado confirms it's just a phantom training dummy, so it's not actually programmed to kill them. He explains this is just a confidence-building exercise, a chance for them to get stronger together, flashing back to the apocalypse to remind them they have to level up if they want to protect their world. His desperate plea to fight alongside him finally seems to be getting through to the terrified students, as one of the F-rankers grips his sword, finally ready to stop running and actually fight back. The first F-ranker gets it, declaring he's done being weak and wants to get stronger, and his sentiment spreads like wildfire as the others vow to change their F-rank status for good. Ado just smiles, seeing that his little speech has finally lit a fire under his team of misfits, immediately calling for Sarah to provide support, who unleashes a powerful lightning spell, which zaps the beast head-on, giving them the perfect opening for a coordinated attack. With the monster stunned, the entire team of underdogs finally charges forward as one unit, as the first student lands a solid blow right on the creature's flank. Another follows up immediately, swinging his sword with newfound determination, vowing not to lose, while Sarah calls out to their teammate Aimi, who leaps in to add her own strike to the barrage, and their combined assault smashes right into the beast's antenna, hitting its weak spot dead on. The F-rankers are in total disbelief, asking if they actually managed to defeat the magical beast, and Ado just smiles, confirming they absolutely did it together as they stand over their prize. His teammates are completely overjoyed, giving him all the credit for their impossible victory, but he just brushes it off, saying their newfound teamwork is what will let them win. With their morale completely restored, the newly motivated Tigre class pushes on to the next checkpoint. Meanwhile, the Oso Squadra team finally arrives at the shrine, expecting an easy first first place, only to realize they're in second, completely baffled that Ato's team somehow beat them to it. The red-haired punk is absolutely furious, deciding if he can't win, he'll just sabotage the race. His teammate Julio immediately tries to stop him, realizing what the guy is about to do. But it's too late as the sore loser smashes the checkpoint's Calming Owl statue to pieces. With the Calming Owl statue now in pieces, the checkpoint is officially broken, and the red-haired punk smirks, revealing he didn't just sabotage the race, he broke a seal. Miles ahead, Ato suddenly stops, sensing a dangerous shift in the magical energy behind them, just as multiple pairs of glowing red eyes flare to life in the dark forest. He immediately realizes those aren't the blue eyes of a phantom training dummy, which means his rival just unleashed a real wild monster onto the course. Back at the shrine, a third team arrives, absolutely furious to be losing to Ato's F-rankers, and their leader tells the whiny student to get a grip and stop embarrassing them. But their argument gets cut short as the newly awakened beast lunges right at them, leaving the same student screaming in terror as the monster closes in for the kill. The newly awakened beast immediately goes on the attack, leaving one of the students screaming for his life, and his team leader is completely stunned by its raw ferocity, realizing this is no joke, because those glowing red eyes confirm it's a real, awakened monster, not some training dummy. The beast immediately charges forward, knocking another student flat on his back without a second thought, and the first victim scrambles away in terror as his own leader just watches in shock. So the guy makes a brilliant leadership decision, ordering his team to just abandon their friend and run, which has one of his teammates absolutely horrified, calling him out for leaving someone to die. Meanwhile, another rival team is just cheerfully jogging along, completely oblivious and aiming for first place. But miles ahead, Ato knows his team stands no chance against that thing, vowing to protect them no matter what. Just then, one of his teammates spots their next objective. The second checkpoint is right up ahead. The team arrives at the second checkpoint, which turns out to be a massive, ominous-looking library. Ato immediately senses a horrifying magical power, confirming this isn't just a quiet reading session. Inside, the place is giving off major dungeon vibes, but one of the F-rankers has total faith in Ato. Our boy stays on high alert, knowing something is definitely wrong with this checkpoint. Right on cue, books start flying off the shelves, glowing with a sinister blue aura, and one of them opens, unleashing an incredible wave of magical energy at the students. So Ato steps up, ready to cast a protection spell to shield his entire team. But his magic completely fizzles out, leaving him wondering why his powers are suddenly sealed. With his defenses gone, the swarm of magical books immediately closes in on him, and the attack slams him straight to the ground, knocking him out cold. Ato wakes up completely dazed, realizing they've been teleported to some strange new room, and Sarah gets her bearings, sensing the magical power here is way stronger than before. Right on cue, a stone fox statue's eyes start glowing with a sinister blue light, which Ato immediately spots, realizing something is seriously wrong with this place. The statue's energy flares up, signaling that their quiet time is officially over, and both of them whip around as a new presence makes itself known. Turns out a massive beast is holding a silver-haired kid hostage, with another student already down, and Sarah completely freezes, recognizing the captive as her own long-lost older brother. Ato is stunned, but she confirms it's him, even though he died years ago protecting her, leaving her in tears as she remembers he sacrificed himself to save her life. Sarah is hit with a horrifying flashback of her brother facing down a massive beast, leaving her younger self to scream for him as he's about to be overwhelmed. Back in the present, she's completely breaking down, apologizing for being unable to save him, as the illusion shows her brother captured, admitting he was too weak to protect her. But Ato immediately realizes this isn't real, calling it out as a mental interference attack, and just as he tries to snap her out of it, the illusion suddenly shifts its focus. The beast is now holding a completely different hostage, a girl with dark blue hair, and as she struggles in its grip, our boy's blood runs absolutely cold, because he recognizes her as Luna, his friend who died in the original timeline. The illusion warps again, with Sarah now clinging to him and calling him her little sister, leaving Ato completely baffled. Ato flashes back to his first life, remembering how he failed to protect Luna from a similar beast, and he grits his teeth, realizing the illusion is weaponizing his greatest regret to break his will. The mental attack then conjures up two massive horned beasts, completely blocking their only path forward, which has Sarah completely panicked, grabbing Ato and screaming for them to make a run for it. But our boy just calmly tells her that running is absolutely not an option this time, explaining this is a room of trials, a place specifically designed to make them fight their own pasts. With his mind made up, he declares they're going to stand their ground and fight back, and his sudden confidence actually snaps Sarah out of her fear, her expression hardening with resolve. Just in time, too, because both of the massive beasts immediately lunge forward to attack, but Ato just draws his sword, confident the person he is now can finally overcome this mental assault. The first horned beast immediately barrels forward, ready to crush them both, so Ato leaps into action, screaming that he's absolutely going to save Luna this time. He swings his sword, trying to unleash a powerful flame spell to stop its charge, but his magic completely fizzles out, leaving him wondering why his powers are sealed, and as he glances at his wrist, he realizes something is terribly wrong, because the bangle Captain Gurren gave him is gone, reverting him to his weaker past self. Sarah screams his name, trying to snap him out of his sudden existential crisis, because the massive magical beast is charging in for the kill while he's distracted. Ado recognizes it as an awakened C-rank monster, something his old self could never beat, and as its fist comes down, he knows that if he loses this fight, he is actually going to die. Sarah screams for him to run, but Ado is completely done backing down from his past failures. He somehow manages to block the monster's crushing fist with just his sword, declaring that even as his weaker self, he's absolutely not running away anymore. Sarah can only watch in disbelief as he holds the massive beast at bay, and with a roar of his own, he actually manages to shove the monster's arm back. Ado leaps away, screaming that he'll never return to the coward he used to be, but the beast just unleashes a massive magical energy blast right back at him. Sarah's convinced he can't possibly dodge, but our boy calmly decides it's time to end this. Vowing to make a clean break from his old self once and for all, he meets the attack head-on, his own powered-up sword clashing with the beast's magic. The clash ends with Ado somehow shoving the massive beast back, refusing to give a single inch, leaving Sarah completely stunned, realizing he's facing it down without using any magic at all. But that's when it clicks for our boy. He can feel his power, realizing it was never actually sealed, and with that realization, his resolve to win this fight hardens instantly. He immediately turns to Sarah, yelling at her to snap out of the mental attack, but she's still completely trapped by her trauma, convinced she's too weak to do anything. So Ado hits her with a hard truth, reminding her she became a mage to honor her brother's memory, and his words clearly hit their mark, forcing her to confront the very reason she's even here, which is all it takes for her fear to turn into pure resolve as she vows to get stronger, declaring she'll become the powerful mage her brother always dreamed she could be. Ado tells Sarah they're fighting this thing together, convinced they can actually win, and he immediately lays out a plan, telling her to target the beast that's already missing an arm. With the strategy set, our boy screams for them to charge forward into the fray, as both of them find their resolve, vowing to protect the people they lost. Ado is the first to move, leaping into the air with his sword ready for a powerful downward strike, but the monster manages to block the blow with its massive arm, stopping him cold. That's the exact opening Sarah was waiting for, seeing her perfect chance to attack, and she slides in low, landing a clean slash right across the beast's exposed flank. Sarah immediately celebrates, thinking their tag team maneuver actually worked and they've won, but Ado frantically tells her to look again because this fight is far from over. Turns out their big attack did absolutely nothing, as the beasts just heal the damage instantly. Ado and Sarah realize that just hitting them harder isn't going to cut it this time. But just then, their F-rank teammates show up out of nowhere, declaring they're joining the fight. Our boy and Sarah are completely caught off guard by the sudden, and probably unhelpful, backup, knowing these are awakened C-rank monsters, way too much for his F-rank crew to handle. But one of the guys insists they can't just leave all the heavy lifting to them. In fact, the spiky-haired kid proudly announces they just took down a monster all by themselves, leaving Sarah completely floored, unable to believe the three underdogs actually managed a real win. She remembers how timid they used to be, realizing they've grown a ton in a short time, and Ado just smiles, figuring out his teammates must have passed their own mental trials too. With his whole squad back together, Ado gets everyone ready to fight the two monsters as a team, but just as they're about to move, he notices the stone fox statue from earlier, and its eyes immediately flare up with that same ominous blue magical energy, which suddenly causes blue flames to erupt over the library's chandeliers. Ido's attention is drawn to the bookshelves, sensing something is off about the books, so he tells Sarah to take a closer look, pointing out a label on one of them. And sure enough, the spines clearly spell out the word seal magic for all to see, leaving Sarah to realize this must be the mechanism that's been blocking their powers. It all clicks for our boy, who finally understands the true nature of this entire trial, and he grins, confidently declaring they now have a real shot at winning this fight. With two giant monsters breathing down their necks, Ado decides it's the perfect time for some light reading, which has his teammate absolutely losing it, pointing out this is not the time for a book club meeting. Our boy just calmly flips through the pages, completely ignoring the impending doom behind him, while the monsters finally get impatient, and Sarah has no idea what his plan could possibly be. Finally done waiting, one of the beasts lunges forward to end this little study session for good. So Sarah immediately tries to cast a protection spell, hoping her magic will finally work this time. But nope, she realizes her powers are still completely offline, leaving them totally defenseless. The monster's attack slams right into one of the F-rankers, knocking him out of the fight instantly. And with the whole team down, Sarah is furious that she can't even cast a basic shield spell. As the fox statue glows again, the monster looms over her, its eyes flaring with the same blue energy. While Sarah is convinced it's hopeless, Ado just ignores her, completely focused on the final book, calmly announcing the last letter he needs as he grabs the final volume to complete his plan. He slams it into place on the shelf, which immediately erupts in a flash of purple energy, and right on cue, the stone fox statue's eyes flare up with a brilliant golden light. Ado just smirks, confirming his big brain play worked out exactly as he predicted, as a massive wave of power washes over the entire team from the statue's pedestal. Sarah is completely bewildered, demanding to know what in the world he just did, so he calmly explains he just rearranged the books and tells her to read the new labels. She looks up to see the spines now spell out the phrase claim sage instead of seal magic, and it finally clicks that the whole thing was an anagram, leaving her stunned by his clever trick. Ido explains that his big brain move should have successfully broken the magic seal, flashing back to his past life where he learned to decipher coded military messages, remembering how all their orders were delivered as complex anagrams just like this one. It's the exact same trick, which is how he knew seal magic was a trap, and with that painful memory now a source of strength, he's ready to fight, declaring it's time for him and Sarah to finish off these monsters for good. He asks the now golden fox statue to lend them its power for the final push, calling on all his abilities to return as he prepares to unleash his magic. And right on cue, Sarah unleashes a powerful fire spell of her own, completely engulfing one of the beasts in a massive roaring inferno. With his magic unsealed, Eito immediately charges up a massive thunder sword attack, feeling his power fully restored and ready to finish this fight for good, so he lunges forward to take on the second monster, Alf, bringing his electrified blade down on the beast with overwhelming force, and the attack connects with a massive jolt, completely frying the creature's defenses, while Eito pushes through, determined to end this in a single decisive strike, which he absolutely does, landing perfectly as the monster collapses behind him. His F-rank teammates are completely floored, shocked he took it down in one hit, and even Sarah is impressed, congratulating him on the impossible victory. But Eito just smiles, telling her they managed to pull it off together. Turns out Sarah's monster is way tougher than they thought, shaking off the flames like it was nothing, and Eito immediately realizes the beast is still standing, which is definitely not part of the plan. The creature starts gathering a terrifying amount of dark magical energy for a massive counterattack, unleashing a huge blast of dark lightning that's aimed at wiping out the entire team at once. Sarah instantly recognizes it as an advanced spell she has absolutely no way of blocking, and the attack barrels down on the completely defenseless students who can only watch in horror, with one of the F-rankers already convinced this is the end of the line for all of them. But at the last possible second, a massive hexagonal shield erupts, blocking the entire blast because Eito stepped up, calmly casting the powerful protection spell just in the nick of time. Sarah is completely stunned, realizing he just pulled off an advanced shield spell without breaking a sweat. Sarah is completely in awe, realizing Eito is getting stronger by the second, but her teammates suddenly scream for him to look out as the last monster recovers. The beast roars back to life, charging up a massive fire fist attack of its own, and Eito realizes it can use advanced spells, forcing him to react instantly. Convinced he can outspeed the attack, our boy dashes forward to meet it head-on, but a sinister red magic circle suddenly erupts from the floor, trapping him in place. Sarah immediately recognizes the advanced spell, screaming that a huge explosion is coming, and she desperately tries to warn the others as shards of energy fly everywhere. The monster lets out a final roar, its horn glowing as it prepares to detonate the trap, leaving the entire team to watch in horror as Eito is caught dead in its sights. As the monster's trap is about to detonate, the F-rankers are convinced it's all over, and Sarah can only watch in horror, completely helpless to stop the imminent explosion. But Eito suddenly blurs right past the attack, moving way too fast for the spell to catch him. He just smirks, reminding the beast he's not about to lose a simple race, then brings his sword down in a flash, slicing the monster's horn clean off before it can detonate. With the threat neutralized, our boy calmly declares that this little fight is officially over, which has his entire team rushing over, absolutely relieved he's still in one piece. One of the girls even gives him a piece of her mind for scaring them half to death, and he just plays it cool with an apology, knowing deep down he still needs to get stronger. With the trial finally complete, Eito places the red stone on the statue, clearing the second checkpoint. With the second checkpoint cleared, Eito tells his team it's time to get moving again, and back in the control room, the map confirms the Tigre class is already en route to the third objective. While the other teachers are blown away, their homeroom teacher Ivan is absolutely fuming, vowing Eito will not win, so he decides to fight fire with fire, accusing our boy of cheating while preparing a cheat of his own. With a sinister smile, Ivan reveals he's keeping a promise to Azure, clearly rigging the competition. Meanwhile, the red-haired punk's team finally arrives at the library, ready for the monster fight, but the two beasts just vanish into thin air for right before their eyes. The guy is completely baffled, demanding to know why the magical beasts just disappeared, but his teammate Julio just brushes it off as good luck and tells him to hurry up. The punk isn't buying it for a second, stopping his crew with a very suspicious look. The red-haired punk's team is suddenly met by Azure Willer, who smugly takes all the credit for the missing monsters. The punk is immediately suspicious, demanding to know exactly how Azure got rid of the beasts. Turns out Azure's brilliant strategy was just bribing Professor Ivan to rig the entire competition for him. Meanwhile, Eito's team is pushing through an incredibly dense fog, completely blind but still on track. Eito confidently tells them the third checkpoint's goddess statue is just ahead, promising a quick break. But one of his teammates immediately calls him out, asking how he knows it's the goddess statue of confusion. Our boy sweats, realizing he can't exactly explain his future knowledge without sounding completely insane. He tries to play it off by pretending he dropped a handkerchief, but the statue is nowhere in sight. One of the girls offers him hers instead, totally oblivious to his terrible attempt at a distraction. Unfortunately, their little moment is cut short as a rival team suddenly appears right behind them. Turns out the rival team is as Azure's crew, Kiryu, who find Ido's handkerchief as an excuse to move, and their leader immediately spots a wooden bird marker, acting like he's a genius, revealing Professor Ivan gave him the inside scoop on following the woodpecker trail. So with his rigged instructions, he confidently leads his oblivious team forward, while the red-haired punk's team watches from the trees, finally understanding the game. His teammate confirms their suspicions. Azure is definitely getting fed information from a source, which has the other guy ready to throw down, vowing to kill the cheater on sight. But Julio just smirks, telling his hot-headed friend to calm down with a much better idea, explaining they'll just let Azure do all the hard work and follow him from a safe distance. All of which has Eido's team completely baffled as they hear the other groups closing in. Eido's team suddenly finds themselves at a dead end, completely baffled as to why they're at a cliff, until one of the guys points out a major problem with their navigation, revealing their compass is spinning wildly thanks to a distorted magnetic field. Sarah immediately freaks out, realizing this means they must have taken the wrong route, and a quick check of the map confirms they've been traveling down a completely different path. But Ido knows something is seriously wrong, because this disturbance wasn't supposed to start yet, remembering from his past life that the compass only malfunctioned right at the goddess statue, and that the magnetic field was only unstable in that one specific area. It all clicks for our boy, who realizes this isn't bad luck. Someone deliberately set a trap, leaving Sarah to desperately ask him what they're supposed to do now that they're lost. One of the F-rankers starts to panic as the sun sets, convinced they'll have to stop for the night, but Eido just calmly tells him that things will actually get a lot better once it's dark. His teammates are completely baffled by this absolutely insane-sounding logic, until our boy reveals his ace in the hole. He's putting their teammate Forno in charge of navigation. He points to the sky, reminding the kid that he's an expert on the stars, and Forno is immediately on board, totally pumped to guide them using celestial navigation. Sarah is just stunned, realizing Eido's team selection was some 4D chess move from the very beginning, and with his plan in motion, Eido declares this match is far from over and they're going to win. Forno gets right to work, already trying to get his bearings from the night sky, while the girls find a potential shortcut on the map, suggesting they head south to the checkpoint. Forno immediately gets to work, identifying the Southern Cross to confirm their path is due south, explaining that extending the cross's vertical line points them exactly where they need to go. With his new navigator in charge, Eido just tells him to lead the way, completely confident. And just like that, their little stargazing trip pays off as they finally arrive at the third checkpoint, but unfortunately for them, they're not the first ones to make it to the ominous entrance. Turns out Azure's team is already there, smugly celebrating what they think is an easy first place, while from the shadows, the red-haired punk's team mocks Azure for being their unwitting guide. His teammate is thrilled their plan to just follow the cheaters worked out perfectly, ready to move on, but the punk stops them, deciding to add a little sabotage by putting out the torches. Julio immediately realizes this is all about screwing over Eido, calling him out for being so petty. The red-haired punk just smirks, loving his teammates' ruthless plan to win at any cost, and with the checkpoint torches officially extinguished, they're ready to overtake Azure's crew, so the saboteurs head into the now pitch-black entrance, leaving a nasty trap for Eido. Meanwhile, Eido's team is making incredible time, with Forno confidently leading them south, and his teammates realize their navigator's shortcut is the only reason they're still in this race. Sarah finally puts it all together, realizing Eido's F-rank picks were a calculated move from the start, and she can't help but be impressed by his insane level of foresight. Just then, their stargazing pays off as they finally spot the third checkpoint statue, and the whole squad rushes forward, totally relieved they've actually made it in one piece. But their celebration gets cut short when one of the girls spots something terrible up ahead. They find the entrance torches have been extinguished, confirming their rivals left a nasty surprise, and one of the F-rankers is furious, realizing they've been deliberately sabotaged by the other teams. Ido immediately shoots down the idea of crafting new torches, already thinking of a better plan, instead clenching his fist as he declares he has another option up his sleeve for this. With the entrance completely pitch black, the team realizes they're totally stuck without a light source. But just then, one of the F-rankers steps up, telling everyone to leave the problem to him. He activates his skill, Pleasure, which hilariously just creates a glowing ball of light for them, leaving the kid shocked his own useless skill is actually coming in clutch for once. With their path now lit, the team is relieved they can finally move forward without any torches. So Eito gives the all clear, and the newly illuminated squad pushes on into the checkpoint. Meanwhile, Azure's team is running circles in the dark, already looking completely lost and exhausted, and one of his teammates is absolutely fuming, realizing something is seriously wrong with this place. They end up right back at a familiar statue, confirming they've just been going in a massive loop, which has the guy with glasses completely freaking out, screaming that they took the wrong path again. Turns out they cleared Area 4 only to get spit right back out at the entrance to Area 3, confirming this whole checkpoint is just one giant, infuriating labyrinth designed to waste their time. Even the red-haired punk's team is stuck, totally stumped on how to actually move forward. At that exact moment, Eido's team finally arrives at the starting point of the maze, where Sarah immediately spots the problem, 3 different passages with no obvious clues. But Eido calmly explains that they just have to keep picking the right path to win. Eido flashes flashes back to his first life, remembering how this exact labyrinth got his entire team eliminated. But this time around, our boy confidently declares he knows the secret to conquering it. He immediately turns to Forno, asking if he recognizes the statue as the constellation Orion, and his teammate confirms it, explaining Orion was a giant from ancient mythology. Forno continues his little lecture, adding that the giant was also a legendary master hunter, which has Edo grinning, telling his stargazing friend it's his time to shine again. He reveals the big plan is to navigate by connecting the paths like stars in the constellation, leaving Sarah completely floored that the entire labyrinth is just one giant celestial puzzle. Edo confirms it, telling Forno he's the only one who can guide them to the exit, so their navigator gets right to work, plotting their course based on the constellation's layout. With his celestial map all figured out, Forno confidently points them down the next path, and Edo immediately gives the all-clear, telling everyone to stick close to their new navigator. One of the other F-rankers is just thrilled, telling Forno how glad he is to have him on the team, and as the guys head off, Sarah watches from behind, finally putting all the pieces together. It finally clicks for her that Edo's F-rank picks were a calculated move from the very beginning, while our boy is brimming with confidence, declaring that with this squad, they're absolutely going to win. The team pushes on through the dark corridors, making incredible time thanks to their guide, and they soon arrive in a large chamber, spotting another statue at the far end. Forno immediately spots their objective, pointing out the final piece of the puzzle, which turns out to be a glowing number 8 on the statue's arm, confirming this is the last stop. One of the F-rankers points out the final corridor, totally pumped that the goal is just ahead, and his teammate immediately thanks Forno, admitting they'd be lost without his navigation skills. Forno just deflects the praise, giving Edo all the credit for figuring out the labyrinth's trick. But their little celebration is cut short when the other girl, Aimi, suddenly stops in her tracks, pointing towards the statue at the far end of the chamber, having spotted something unusual, which turns out to be a massive golden key hanging right around its neck. The team gathers around as Aimi reaches out to grab their hard-earned prize, but a sinister dark energy immediately flares up the second her hand gets close. Just past the statue, they spot a pedestal with 3 glowing stones still waiting for them, and the team erupts, realizing they're officially the first to clear the labyrinth. Edo places the stones on the pedestal, totally confident they're about to win this whole competition, but one of his teammates finds the exit is chained shut and absolutely refuses to open. Aimi points out the obvious, revealing a massive keyhole is blocking their only way forward, so the other girl pulls out the golden key they found, thinking this is their ticket out. Unfortunately, when she tries it in the lock, the key doesn't even turn, leaving them stuck. The girls are completely baffled, wondering if they somehow grabbed the wrong prize from the statue. But Edo has a sudden realization, understanding the keyhole itself is the real puzzle here. At that exact moment, one of his teammates lets out a terrified scream as the ground gives way because the floor just opened up, sending the poor kid plummeting into a hidden pitfall trap, and Edo whips around in shock, realizing this checkpoint has one more nasty surprise for them. Turns out their teammate Forno is now a spider cocoon piñata dangling helplessly from the ceiling, and a massive magical spider is waiting below, leaving the rest of the team completely horrified. One of the girls immediately suggests they all just blast it with magic, a truly brilliant plan, until Ido points out they'd probably end up blasting their friend into a fine paste too. With their best idea shot down, she panics, asking what other options they even have. But Ido suddenly remembers he's seen this exact monster before back in his first life, flashing back to when it attacked a supply warehouse and caused total chaos for his old unit. Back then, a certain Captain Glenn knew exactly how to handle the situation without a problem, revealing the creature's big weakness was light and ordering the warehouse doors thrown open, and with that memory, Edo realizes he knows exactly how to save his teammate. Aimi suddenly puts it all together, staring at the glowing red orb in her hand, realizing that if she combines it with the golden key they found earlier, she can craft a light key, which is probably what they need to get out. But their little puzzle session is cut short as Forno screams for help from the spider's web, so Edo steps up, activating his own hilariously named skill, Pleasure, which lets him chuck a glowing ball of pure light right at the massive spider. The attack connects, and the creature immediately recoils from the sudden bright flash, leaving Edo to smirk, confirming his hunch that the monster absolutely hates the light. The spider immediately scurries away from the glowing orb, retreating into the shadows. And just then, one of the girls points, telling everyone to look at what's happening. But their brilliant plan hits a snag as the light orb starts to fade out, which has Ido realizing their window to act is closing way faster than he thought.